Dandadan key visuals released for season 2, posters and stuff. So that means new poses. So this is kind of cool one from the season 2 poster. Kind of on the side, and he's got this kind of, his sort of jacket is kind of like on fire behind him on his shoulder. Landscape page. Use a pencil, use an eraser, hit pause if I go too fast. Glasses and stuff are tricky, so if you've definitely like sketch it with pencil and all that kind of stuff. So you can always put ink on top of pencil. His head over here, just to fit in some of his jacket that's kind of flowing back this way, right? So over this side. Start with his eye, and we can only see one eye, so it makes it easier. So we'll go diagonal first. And it is a thick enough sort of spiky top eyelid line, and then the top pretty flat comes across here. So we always have this little extra sort of line coming out the front. Right, so it's kind of like a horizontal line with a little spike down there that goes towards his like nose area. Bottom eyelid line down, it's kind of like a V, but like this back side is like real long. Goes back that way. It's more like a check mark, I guess. Then bottom eyelid, half circle, or bottom of his iris, half circle, coming down this way. And his pupil, black in the center, just coming down from the top eyelid. Always makes a character look more serious when you can only see half their eye. So he has those red markings, right? And they're kind of drawn differently, like each time. Sometimes they're real sketchy, sometimes it's real smooth. So say we'll go in this one, it kind of comes down from here, so I'll draw it in. It's done with color, right? So there is no black line usually, but we will draw it in. And about here it hits that red cheek line, you know, so there's a bit of a gap, and then it continues. It's not spiky on this one, but it usually is, so I'll do that. And then it just goes like around the top a bit, and then it hits the red line again. That goes up like as high as his eyebrow even. So there's this red gap, and then we'll just bring it back down around the front. So it kind of disappears around here. So that's just that red area, okay? And then his eyebrow, sometimes it's spiky and sometimes it's square. So we'll do it spiky this time. Just that red bit stops. Yes, we'll just go that way. Disappears underneath his hair. It's like a check mark, and then we'll have a space that we can like add some color to. And there might be like a bit of an eyelid line just on top of his eye there. So then we got like frown lines, you know, these wrinkles on his forehead. And there's like more behind his glasses. So before I do the circles for the glasses, we got to do some extra stuff, right? So just across from his eyebrow here, we have like the frame that goes over his nose, that little bump, right? And then this is like silver, so it's double just there. It's kind of sitting on his nose, right? And then his nose comes down this way, and then we'll have like a wrinkle maybe there. And then his forehead comes out from there and up to his hair, and it kind of like bumps right? So it's kind of bumping once or twice. And then we get another, goes up towards his hairline, up to there, right? Maybe another wrinkle, maybe, or two. So his mask, because the glasses kind of sit on top of the mask as well, so we got to do that first. So it comes, the line of it on his face comes down underneath this red part of his eye and disappears. It kind of gets all cool and scratchy kind of up here. So it's like melded with his skin or something. So it's kind of like zigzag and kind of hairy, but it's all black. So it kind of just goes close to his eye and then down that way. So that's all part of the mask. Then the pointy part comes out just like kind of underneath his glasses, down, and then it has like an edge, so like an edge to the side of it, kind of going just down that way somewhere. So we can do those circles now. So they're ellipses, right? So if you have a compass or something that can, or like a stencil for ellipses, do that because it's a bit easier. But if not, you can try and freehand it like me. So just like you could do one line first anyway. So it's a thin circle. Curving around here. It connects into this thing, and then it seems to go around his cheek here. You might be able to see another side. Now, sometimes because it's like a 3D object, you know, you could see a rim or an edge line just sort of lightly sort of following this, like, because it would have an edge, right? And maybe as well, like on this side, nothing on top because of the way we're viewing them, right? So it kind of like comes down there. Now you draw this, like you're just kind of suggesting it. It can be real sketchy. I've seen the show, sometimes they don't even draw that, so because they're animating it and it probably takes a while. So the other one is like around, kind of half around this eye, so it like touches the red here and this. So say, and it's kind of like a bit like not as thin as this one, so it'll like scooch around, touching this part of his nose, and then it'll go down sort of up this way as well. It's pretty high up. It goes underneath his hair and everything. So this can be tricky to do now. So man-made objects I find harder to draw than natural. Always have. Always will, probably. And then coming down from the top again, we'll do that sort of rim, that sort of edge, just following that shape again. Just gives it a bit of extra detail. But not essential. And of course, anything, well, you see through glass, but you could color over or erase anything. Sometimes if it's gray, you might see the lines underneath. So before I do his hair, we'll do all those teeth. So like there's two layers to this, right? So we have the top teeth, the bottom teeth, and then the pointy sort of chin. So 3 layers, I guess. and it kind of comes out further on the bottom. So real pointy here, and then we go back. And this, like, again, melds sort of with his face in this sort of scratchy kind of detail stuff. So it kind of gets all sort of spiky and scratchy here. It's done like real rough. And it goes down, the whole way down his back in that style, but we'll draw his back first to do that. So his teeth then, so just like his gums on top, right? So there's just these like angled up and down. And this one kind of comes around. And then we'll go into there again. Sometimes they're round and sometimes they're bumpy. All right. And then the center. So just coming down here, each tooth. So it kind of bumps around like so. So they do draw in each tooth, so it kind of takes a bit longer. So say like coming down then, like this. Then up from the bottom. So like an extra one there. Okay, so now that hair. So his hair is like, it's drawn with red line. So if you want to do that, you can, but I'm using a black pen. So it's kind of Super Saiyan, but like Tim Burton Super Saiyan. So, so like this sort of zigzag going across, right, his head. So for his hairline, right, so kind of like goes across a little bit this way, and then he's got like hair spikes and stuff. So let's say like just above his eye, I'd say it comes out. So we'll go like around here, down, spikes over his hair. I might like stop it because just we might, well, you could bring it over the glasses. I might just like stop it here just to make it a bit easier for everybody. And then we'll go down this way. It's kind of drawn real rough. It's not, it's just like a blob sort of on top. And then there is these extra sort of bumps and stuff coming around here. And there's like all this red, and on the edges there's all red and pink and stuff. Some textures. Another sort of angle, sort of spiky bit here. And it moves and changes, so don't worry if yours isn't like exactly like mine. And I'm not like copying exactly either, so. So that, so 2 of those. Now you can make that longer if you wanted. I just didn't want to cover the glasses because I like the glasses. There's some more of this red that comes up, like the red line on his head. There. And then there's all texture and stuff all in here. So it kind of goes, there's like a big section that goes that way. Okay, so we'll go, yeah, there's a big line. Looks like it spikes nearly all the way back. All the way back to there. So it's all red on the edges of this now. More sort of spikes. It looks more like fire than hair. So these box-like little sections and stuff. There's more over here, but I'll just finish the back portion. And like some textures and things. So then there's like a piece of fringe that comes out over here. So we'll go this way. Down, goes down behind the glasses in this case. Then out the front. And then I think there's another one, like another spike. A little texture in there, but we'll just go this way first. And there's like some little texture areas there. There's the red all on the edge, but it's done with color. So we can do that with color. It's like some texture lines all there. Okay, that's his hair. Like, and there's like it's kind of bordered with red the whole way around. So, but you'll see that when I color. Okay, so what we can see of his shoulder and his back, right? So neck, I think we can see Adam's apple kind of here, right? And then like a collarbone or something going down that way. Like a bump for his chest. Probably should be a neck muscle here, but can't really see one, but I'll draw it in anyway. And then his shoulder comes out, down, and bicep out, down, off the page. Sort of a middle line for where his neck meets his shoulder muscle. And this comes up and disappears underneath that, all that black stuff up here. And then the other side of his shoulder goes that way. Like shoulder muscle there. And it's all like hatching and stuff coming down his spine. Armpit, tricep. You can put more deltoid and stuff if you want, just to make it a bit more detailed, because they shade it all. And then we have like a crazy sort of hatching situation, right? So like this, scribbly, right? Messy drawing. So it's kind of easy. So you just do this. And I think like the crazier you make it look, the better it looks. And then his back is just smooth there. And then like his pants starts here. This is like his whole back area all hunched over. So there's a bit of like muscle lines. So like his, you know, like his, where his shoulder meets his shoulder blade. And then like his lats and his spine and all this. Just basically bone and muscle. He's skinny. And kind of contorted looking. Means like twisted. So there's a couple of, so his collar is on fire. So like there's that, it's kind of like his hair. So it kind of like, you know, it gets kind of wild. There's like a big V or something here. And then it comes up and there's all this flowing sort of stuff. And like a red edge and everything. So again, really rough. They don't like do tremendous amounts of detail. It's just all black with red around the edges. Makes it easier for us, I guess. And it just joins into his back. Like down here somewhere where this black sort of stuff stops. You can see, I think we can see his elbow. Like a little bit in here, up to his sort of forearm. One of his arms, anyway. Looks like his arm. Okay, maybe some just fabric and stuff on that. Then we can see his knee sticking out here. Of course, if you were just following the head, you're probably done. Just add the knee in, pointy out that way, and then like a roughly drawn foot. It's not, they don't put major detail. They just calf and shin, his heel, and then sort of a foot shape here. And I think they do add, well, they do add like a little few toes here. And like his other arm is like gone real crazy long down that way. If you want some like just detailed debris or stuff in the background. Okay, Okarun, Dandadan Season 2. Hope it's helpful. Thanks for watching. See you next one. Bye.